So good morning. So I am going to share a story, The Selfish Giant. It is one of the best story I ever read. So I just wanted to share with you all. So chapter number 1, The Giant's Garden. Every afternoon, as they were coming from school, the children used to go and play in the giant's garden. It was a large, lovely garden with soft grass here and there. Over the grass stood a beautiful flowers like stars, and there were 12 peach trees. Peach trees means pink color flowers on the trees, that are peach trees. That is the springtime broke out into delicate blossom of pink and purple, and in the autumn bore rice fruit. The birds sat on the trees and sang so sweetly that the children used to stop their games in order to listen them. How happy we are here, they cried to each other. One day the giant came back. He had been to visit his friend, the owl. After 7 years over, he had said all that he had to say, for his conversation was limited and he wanted to return to his own castle. When he arrived, he saw so many children playing in the garden. "What are you doing?" the giant said very loudly, and the children get too scared and ran away. "My own garden is my own," the giant said. "Anyone can understand that, and I will allow nobody to play in but myself." How do you feel? How is the giant? Yes, yes, he is good. More? Yes, giant is selfish. Yes, selfish, okay. Then, so he built a high wall all around the place. So, he had a big castle, so he had to make a long and wide walls to cover so no one can come. He was very selfish. The poor children had nowhere to play. They tried to play on the road, but the road was too dusty and full of hard stones, and they did not like it. They would wander around the high walls when their lessons were over and talk about the beautiful garden inside. How happy we were when the giant was not there. So, the second chapter is about the coming of spring. Then the spring came, and all over the country there were beautiful blossoms and little birds going here and there. Only in the garden of the giant there was still winter. The birds did not care to sing in it, and there were no children, and the tree forgotten to bloom. Once a beautiful flower put its head out from the grass, but when it saw the notice board, it was so sorry for the children that it spilled back into the ground again and went off the sleep. So there was a flower that came out of the grass, and there was a board written, "No children are allowed." The flower felt bad and went again in. The only people who were pleased were the snow and the frost. So there was all over the country there was spring, but in the giant's garden there was only winter. There were all over the snow and sad. "Spring has forgotten his garden," they cried, "so we will live here all over year round." The snow covered the grass with her great white cloak, means the white layer of the snow had covered its whole garden, and Claus painted all the trees silver. The trees was covered with the snow, so it was so silvery. Then they invited the north wind to stay with them, and he came. He was wrapped in fur, and he rode all day about the garden and blew the Christmas pods down. This is a delightful spot, he said. We must ask the hill on a visit. So the snow invited the north wind to come and stay in the garden because it was too cold. So the hill came every day for 3 hours. He ran on the roof of the castle till it broke most of the tail, and then he ran around and around. The garden was fast as he could go. He was dressed in grey and his breath was like ice. I can't understand why the spring is so late to come, said the selfish giant, as he sat on the window and looked out at cold white garden. I hope there will be a change in the weather. But spring never came, nor the summer. The autumn gave golden fruits to every garden, but the giant's garden she gave none. He is too selfish, she said. So it was always winter there, and the north wind and the hill and the front snow danced about through the trees. So one day, giants thought, why there is only winter in my whole garden? Where is the spring? I hope there will be chance the spring come to my garden. But 1 year passed, but no spring came. Chapter 3. The Little Boy. One morning the giant was laying awake in the bed when he heard some lovely music. It sounded sweet to his ears that he thought it must be the king's Michelle passing by. It was really only a little distant sound out the window, but it was so long since he had heard the birds singing in his garden that it seemed to him to be most beautiful music in the world. Then the lilies stopped dancing over his head, and the north wind cheered roaring, and decided perfume came through the open casement. I believe the spring has came, at least said the giant. So one day, the giant was laying on the bed and he was thinking about the spring. Then he heard a sweet little sound. He thought, I think the king's spring. What? Spring. Yes, spring. Okay. The king was passing by, so he went out and see through his window. There were birds singing, and the frost was going because there was something. He jumped out of the bed and looked out. What did he see? Through a little hole in the wall, the children and the creep in, and they were sitting in the branches of the tree. In every tree that he could see, there was a little child, and the trees were so glad to have the children's back again that they had covered themselves with flowers and were waving their arms gently. The birds were flying about, twinkling and brightly, and the flower looked up through the green grass laughing. It was a lovely scene. So the giant saw there were children playing in his garden, and some of the children were climbing the tree, and the trees were too happy to have those children's back. So they were waving and dancing. Only in one corner, it was still winter. It was the further corner of the garden, and in it standing a little boy. He was so small that he could not reach the branches of the tree. and he was carrying bitterly. The poor tree was slide quiet, covered with frost and snow, and the north wind was blowing and roaring above it. Climb up, little boy, said the tree, and it was bent the branch down as he could. The but the little boy was too tiny. The giant's heart melted as he looked out. How selfish I have been, he said. So, at the one corner of the giant's garden, there was still so much frost and north wind. And there down the tree, there was a boy standing. He was trying to climb the tree, but he was too small to climb. The trees felt too bad. He also bent his branch to come above me, but he could not bend more. The child was too small that he could not climb. The giant felt too sad that how rude I was, how selfish I was. Why I didn't let those small children to play in my garden. So now I know why the spring will not came here. And giant realized why spring had not came in his garden only, and all over the country has came. So he was really very sorry for what he did. I was put that poor little boy on the top of a tree, and then I will knock down the walls. My garden shall be the children's playground forever and ever, he said. So he thought I was too selfish that I didn't let those children to play in my garden. I should put that little poor boy on the tree and knock down the walls so that all children can play. I will make my garden a beautiful playground for the children. So he came down the doorstep and opened the front door quietly, softly, and went out the garden. But when the children saw him, they were so frightened that they all ran away, and the garden became wintry again. So, when the giant came out, children got too scared that they ran off, and the winter came again. That there were no children laughing, playing. So, winter came again, but only the little boy who did not run for his eyes were so full of tears, he did not see the giant coming. The boy was seeing the tree, and his eyes were full of tears, and he did not see the giant was coming behind. He did not run, and the giant stood up behind and took him gently in his hand. The giant came and saw the child not running, so he took him gently and put him on the tree. And the tree broke at once into blossom. The north wind, the frost had went, that the children was happily sat on the tree. So the tree broke down in the blossom. The tree was full of blossom, and the birds came and sang. And the little boy stretched out his two arms and flung them on the giant. The child was too happy that he hugged the giant. The other children, when they saw the giant was not walk on his longer, came running back, and with them came the winter. The children saw the giant was not doing anything. He helped a little boy to climb the tree. So they also came and joined them. And with them, the spring also came. The frost and snow had went again all over the garden. It is your garden now, little child, said the giant. And he took a great axe and knocked down the walls. So the giant said, "The all garden is yours now." And he took his axe and knocked down the all wall that he had built. And so at 12 o'clock, when the people were going to market, they found the giant playing with the children in the most beautiful garden they had ever seen. All day long they played, and in the evening they came to the giant to bid him goodbye. "But where is your little champion?" he said. "The boy I put the tree. The giant loved him the best." "We don't know," answered the children. "He was going away." So when everyone was going to market at 12 o'clock, the children also have to go. So they came and said bye to giant. So giant asked, "Where is the little boy that I had put on the tree?" So the children said, "No, we did not see him. And he would have went away far. You must tell him to be sure and come here tomorrow." The giant said to children, If you meet him, tell him that come and play with me in the garden." But the children said they had never seen him before, and the giant felt very sad. Every afternoon, when school was over, the children came and played with the giant, but the little boy whom the giant loved so much never seen him again. The giant was very kind to all the children, yet he longed for his first little friend. And after speaking to him, "How I like to see him," he used to say. So the giant became too sad that the child whom I love so much, I will never see him again. The children come play with giant and went again. So many years after, year went over and the giant grew older and feeble. He could not play about anymore, so he sat in love and in a huge armchair and watched the children at their games and admired his garden. So many years later, the giant was getting older. He could not play with the children anymore. So he sat on his big armchair and see his garden and the children playing in the garden. So how do you think how is the garden? So giant is now.
He is very kind with everyone and respectful with everyone.
Yes. So at first he was selfish, rude, greedy. That he thought the garden is his only. But now he understood that the garden is for all, and because of the small children who play in his garden, they bring the spring and beauty of his garden. They are the small flowers of his garden. Without them, the spring and the other seasons will not come. So after so many years, the giant was older and he could not play. So he sit and see the garden. "I have so many beautiful flowers," he said, "but the children are the most beautiful flower of all." So there are so many beautiful flowers in his garden, but the children are the most beautiful of them. One winter morning, he looked out of his window, and as he was dressing, he did not hate the winter now, for he knew that it was merry the spring asleep and and that the flowers were resting. So now it became winter because it is winter season. So the giant at first hated the winter, but now he loved that it is the time for spring to sleep and the flowers to rest. Later the spring will come again. So the giant was getting dressed and seeing out of his window. Suddenly he rubbed his eyes and wondered and looked. It certainly was a marvelous sight. In the further corner of the garden was a tree quite covered with lovely white blossoms. Its branches were all golden and silver fruits hang down from them. Underneath stood a little boy he had loved. Downstairs, the giant ran in great joy, and out of his garden he ran across the grass and came near to the children. So one day he was just dressing and he saw a tree with golden branches, and it was covered with flowers. So he rubbed his eyes. Am I seeing the dream? How it is possible? It is winter. So then he saw a little boy stood. The giant felt too happy and ran in the joy. And now he came near the boy. And when he came quite closer, his face grew red with anger. And he said, "Who has dared to wound you?" For on the palm of the children's hand there were prints of 2 nails. And the print of 2 nails there on his one little feet. "Who had dared to wound you?" cried the giant. "Tell me that I may take his big sword and slay him." So when the giant came closer to the child, he saw that in the children's palm and his legs there were nails. So the giant felt too angry that who had wounded him. So tell me who had wounded you, I will take my sword and slay him. The boy said, "Nah," answered the child. "But these are the wounds of love." "Who are you?" said the giant. And a strong awe fell on him. And he kneeled before the little giant. So the child said, "Nah, it is the wound of the love." The giant felt like, "Who are you?" and went in front of him. And the child smiled on the giant and said him, "You let me play once in your garden. Today you should come with me to my garden, which is praised." And when the child ran in that afternoon, they found the giant laying dead under the tree, all covered with white blossom. So the child was already dead. I don't know how, but he had died, and he just wanted to come and see because the giant was also going to die. So he came and said, "Now you also come with me. You let me to play in my garden, so you should also come and play in my garden."